Hello, is anyone there? This is Grimm Grinner, on all channels.
Infected attacks rampant in the GAT. The government failed. Unified in the corporation.
Have a safe day.
Desolation. An endless wasteland.
Nothing but static.
Searching for a shred of hope.
Welcome to the Wastes.
Hey there, Wasteland. Edward Grimm Grinner Hutchinson here with another long-awaited episode of Grimm Grinner's Cache. I don't know how long this episode's going to be, but I felt like it was a good time as any to put out another one of these to delve what's been going on in my brain meats when it comes to Welcome to the Wastes. As you can probably tell by the title of this episode, I'm today talking about hope and how that's shaping the world of the show going forward, and how it's already been shaping it since at least last season. I don't want to sound bleak, but hope in the apocalypse is kind of a rarity. Hell, a lot of media would have you believe that hope is a lost cause, especially in stuff that kills off fan-favorite characters, sometimes in extremely brutal and unforgiving ways. Walking Dead. But it's not that rare, and it should be appreciated when found. I myself have been leaning towards a lot more hope punk stuff lately, especially in like the games and media I consume, with aspirations of trying to find it not just in the world of the post-apocalypse, but in this current version of real life that we're living in. So, I don't know, let's talk about hope, I guess. Where to really begin? I mean, it is a bit more of an ambiguous thing in comparison to the last couple episodes I've done like this, where I kind of had a structure of thoughts I wanted to get out about story writing, that kind of thing. But, I mean, hope is, well, it's hope. It's just sort of it's just sort of one of those things that you either have or you don't. And I feel like most people more or less have it. So, maybe I'll talk about how I have incorporated hope into the Wastes over, I want to say like the past year and a half, maybe a bit more. As I'm sure a lot of you out there may have noticed, the first two seasons, even, I'd say maybe half the third, had a lot of backstory and a lot of bad things happening. Especially when it comes to Grimm. Being shot at, being shot to, cap our mid-seasons, losing friends, losing outposts, being faced with some, forgive the term, grim stuff. I was trying to create a compelling narrative, full of the bleak wasteland shenanigans, all while having, this redheaded rebel run around and fight through it all. It seemed like a fun idea at the time, and it still is. But looking back, he was the main bit of hope in the story for that period, carrying it on his shoulders in a lot of ways. Especially for me as the writer. I've faced a bunch of situations over the past few years that have filled me with a lot of dread and made it hard to find hope and see what good having it could be. Not in the wasteland, but in my life and beyond. I mean, mental illness is a hell of a drug, right? But through a lot of it, even when I felt lost, when I felt alone, when I was worried about my grasp on hope, I knew I still had it. If nothing else, I had hope for my cat, for me to not leave a story untold, whether it's this podcast or the stories that I'm telling as me, as Edward. Fast forward to slightly more recently, when I was working on the beginning of Season 4. Fun fact, Season 4 originally had a very different big climax and finale that would have been a much more brutal and deadly ending than I went with. No major allies are getting dusted in that one. I'm not pulling a Praxis, but Grimm would have gone down a darker path had I not course-corrected. Instead, I started to find my own hope for the world I was crafting, instead of letting that world give me hope, which is kind of interesting now that I think about it. A big component of that hope was the creation of some new characters. Characters like Tanner and Sam Saction and, these fun, weird beings that I've started putting into the show. I took a look at the world that I've been crafting, and suddenly, this foul-mouthed little kid that Grimm has hanging around, and this weird old traveling merchant who seems to bend the laws of physics and reality, made me want to build some more hopeful things to, keep things afloat, keep it fresh, keep it fun. And that's really all I've wanted to do with this, is have it be something fun. And hope is how I'm getting there. Because at the end of the day, hope can give you something to fight for. It can give you a reason to fight. And when it comes to Grimm Grinner, if he's always going to be fighting, and he's always going to be fighting stuff like the corporations, or the judge, or, God, all of these other villains that I've started tossing into the show, and some new, interesting, terrifying things that I'm tossing into the show going forward. Stay tuned in a couple weeks for that. He's got to have something worth fighting for. And from Grimm's perspective, he doesn't fight for himself. As much as he enjoys being this voice in the static, and voice of the wastes, and this beacon for the communities he's a part of in the show, he's not fighting for himself. At the end of the day, if he goes down swinging, and that's what matters for that side of him, and that's what's mattered for a long time. But as Grimm's gone through things, and as he's lost people, and as he's lost, he's on a path of trying to find more reasons to fight, and more things to fight for, and a big part of that is having hope that what he's fighting for at the end of the day is worth it. Whether he's got hope that, Tanner doesn't have to grow up in a world that's run by the evil of the corporations, or with ferals, or any of the other things out there, or whether he's got hope that, Sam Saction's going to show up with exactly what he needs. Grimm's fighting for that now. And I feel like the more I write that into Grimm's story, the more I have that for my own stories. And for my own personal story. When shit hits the fan, whether it's in a post-apocalyptic sense, or whether it's in a personal sense, it can really make it feel like there is no hope. I mean, two lines that keep playing in my head as I've been formulating this episode, and let's be honest, if it sounds like I was reading the first half of this, I was. I did kind of script this to give myself a kicking off point, but two lines that have been going in my head as I go through this are, interestingly enough, from the two most recent Wasteland films that I quite enjoy, too much, almost. Mad Max Fury Road and Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. First up is the line from Dementis in Furiosa, immediately mashed up with the line from Nux in Fury Road. Dementis' whole line about where were they going so full of hope, there is no hope, because this man has lost it. He's lost any chance of hope. He's lost any semblance that he could have hope in his life and in his world. But then to, narratively fast forward, if you watch them in, actual, storyline order, to then have Nux's line when they decide to go back. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen Mad Max Fury Road, but again, it's also been, almost 10 years? So, settle down. And if you're listening to this, there's every chance you've probably seen it already anyways. But Nux's line, when the whole group looks at him, because obviously he knows the Citadel, and he says, it feels like hope. And the fact that that feels like the catalyst for our heroes, our protagonists, to like go back and make this play. It feels like a beautiful narrative structure, albeit played somewhat backwards. That, you know, we've had Furiosa this whole time, kind of being told there's no hope, and then the moment she is reminded that there's hope, she's going for it. Every time she's reminded there's hope, she goes for it, because she fights for that. Same way Grimm fights for it. I mean, just take a look at how I've even been writing things. Like, there's two major elements now that I get to be reminded of every time I'm working on a new episode. First off is the poem that I wrote that is titled Welcome to the Waste. And the last lines of that poem, a voice in the static, screaming out through a shattered world, lighting it up with hope again. I wrote that line 2 years ago almost. That poem was is a huge part of the podcast. And you can listen to it on Spotify if you'd like. Just search up Grimm Grinner. Haha. Yeah, self-plug there. But also just how I've changed the intro. The last line before you hear me say welcome to the waste now is searching for a shred of hope. And at the end of the day, I think that's what we're all doing. And in the post-apocalypse, it's all a lot of people will have. Hope to rebuild, hope to survive another day, hope to see the sins of your past be washed away, I guess. That kind of rhymed and sounds poetic, but I can assure you, right off the cuff there. And I don't know. I will open up the conversation to everyone else out there. Once you've listened to this episode, shoot me a message. Send me a message on social media. I'll open up on this post, like on this episode. I will open up the field. Like there should be a question section that you can post an answer to. What gives you hope for the world, for yourself, for anything out there? It doesn't have to be, could be political, could be something you saw today, something that just helps you feel like continuing on is worth it. I really want to hear it, and who knows, maybe I'll do a follow-up Grimm Grinner's Cache down the road, kind of looking back on a lot of this. I also want to do more of these as well. I know I did 2 in like season 1 and season 2, and haven't done one until now when we're like 15, 16 episodes into season 5. So I would love to do more of these. I would love to do almost like question and answer stuff, more stereotypical podcasty stuff for these kind of episodes, just because I feel like it's good to break up the format, and it's good to help my brain process everything that's coming into it, because there is a lot. So yeah, drop a comment, send me a message, and maybe we'll have another look back on hope one day. As for now, we'll see you in the waste. This has been Edward Grimm Grinner Hutchinson, writer, creator, behind the... Come on, you know who I am. Why am I going to do that? I'm also going to say that in the outro in a second, so why would you even care? Have a good one, everyone, and we'll see you in the wastes. Welcome to The Waste is a Wasteland podcast brought to you by Edward Grimm Grinner Hutchinson, but made possible by Wastelanders like you. If you'd like to support the show in a fun way or get some merch, check me out on Patreon or on Etsy. The links to both of those, as well as all my social media, can be found at linktree.com/welcome to the wastes. See you in the wastes.